You're listening to The Dossier, presented by Metro by T-Mobile.
Who shot ya? Separate the weak from the opsa. Leap hard to creep them Brooklyn streets. It's on, nigga. Fuck all that bickering beef. I can hear sweat trickling down your cheek. Your heartbeat sound like Sasquatch feet. Thundering, shaking the concrete. Then the shit stopped when I fall the plot. Neighbors call the cops, said they heard mad shots. Saw me in the drop.
Previously on The Dossier.
I'm taken aback that this stuff all existed. And, you would think the way the LAPD spins this, that this stuff was like some fucking fairy tale.
Bullshit. This is the thing that gets under my skin more than anything. LAPD, all the way to the very fucking top, knew exactly what was going on, briefed on certain stuff. I met with them. And for them to say anything of the difference, and I can prove to you that they not only knew, but how they obstructed this case, completely derailed it. And I know that for a fact that stuff is not in the documents there.
Phil Carson was an FBI agent who worked inside the Los Angeles Field Division of the FBI. He also was the only FBI agent to investigate who killed Biggie, and more importantly, who covered it up. In the last episode, Carson gave me key pieces of information and verified rumors that existed for close to 24 years. LAPD officers David Mack and Rafael Perez were present at the Peterson Automotive Museum the night Biggie was killed.
Who killed rapper Notorious B.I.G. and were LAPD officers involved? The mystery of his murder has gone unsolved for 14 years now, but some people believe we are closer than ever to cracking the case, and it's all because of what you are about to see. Tonight, KCAL9's Randy Page exposes key evidence for the first time since those fatal shots were fired on an LA street.
Were LAPD officers involved in the murder of rap superstar Christopher Wallace, also known as Notorious B.I.G.? And if so, did the LAPD try to cover it up? Questions that are still being asked 14 years after the fatal rounds were fired.
You are now listening to Episode 2 of The Dossier, the jailhouse confession of LAPD cop Rafael Perez. This story requires the knowledge of many names. I told you in Episode 1 who was involved in the murder of Biggie. David Mack and Rafael Perez were gangster cops. That has already been proven. Mack robbed a bank while he was an LAPD officer. He went to jail. Perez was the face of the Rampart police scandal. He served 6 years and now is a free man. I received an email last week that he is now shopping his own TV show called The Dirtiest Cop in America. This episode is mainly comprised of a prison interview I did with Kenneth Boagney inside a California state prison. You're going to hear a lot of names thrown at you, so I'm going to break it down the best way I can into 2 categories. First, the dirty LA cops category. Kevin Gaines, Sammy Martin, Rafael Perez, David Mack, and Reggie Wright Jr. All dirty cops. The second category is legal counsel. David Kenner, Death Row Records attorney, and Suge Knight's lawyer and personal fixer, Don Vincent, the city attorney for LA, and Perry Sanders, the lawyer for Miss Wallace, Biggie's mom. Again, that's a lot of names, but hopefully this helps. I knew I had something that no one to date had when it came to the investigation and information about the murder of Biggie. Phil Carson was talking, and I had the unredacted FBI files of his investigation. Inside these files were a list of informants that held vital information about who killed Biggie and also who covered it up and why. These people were not names that anyone had heard from. They weren't interview subjects in any documentary on Netflix. And in the telling of this story, so many times, these informants actually held information that LAPD's robbery homicide investigators could have used. Not only did these investigators not pursue these leads, they went as far as obstructing justice to try and silence many of these people I would talk to. One of the informants in the file was Kenneth Boagney. I wrote him a letter in jail at Calipatria State Prison, and he agreed to talk to me. And I want to make one thing clear. I did not pay Kenneth Boagney any money for this information or interview.
So, how long were you cellmates with Rafael Perez?
Not that very long. We were cellmates for about a month and a half, and then they moved me 2 cells away from him.
But you were in the same sort of common area.
Yeah, we went to breakfast every morning together. We went to church together. We fed the other prisoners together. I spent, almost 24 hours a day with the guy.
Oh, wow. Why do you think he trusted you to tell you this stuff?
Well, I think he trusted me. He just needed to get some of it out. You know what I'm saying? One particular time, we didn't go to church. The guy came and brought the church to us. So he was testifying, and there wasn't a lot of people there, maybe 4 or 5 people in our unit that actually went to church. And me and Perez was at church. We were sitting at the table together, and we started singing that song, A Wretch Like Me. I once was lost and now found. I can't even think of the song name. And he started crying, And I'm like, wow, I didn't know whether to put my head on this, to give him a hug or what, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, man, I'm just so tired of, living like this. And, he would bear us over. But then we were doing a lot of drinking, too. We were drinking a lot of homemade alcohol.
But you said something before.
Kenneth Boagney was an inmate in Calipatria State Prison in Imperial County, California. He was serving a 40-to-life sentence under California's 3 strikes law. Boagney had no violent felonies on his record. What was interesting about his particular story was Boagney was cellmates with LAPD cop Rafael Perez. Perez was a part of the infamous Rampart division of the LAPD. Perez and a handful of cops were charged with dealing drugs, planting evidence, shooting witnesses, robbing drug dealers, and sheer mayhem. It is speculated that Perez is actually the inspiration for the character that Denzel Washington played in the movie Training Day.
Oh, son, can't open your eyes. Can't you see? Huh?
That man was your friend, and you killed him. Like a fly.
My friend, huh? Yeah. Tell me why. Because he knows my first name? Son, this is the game. I'm playing his ass. That's my job. That's your job. Roger sold dope to kids. The world is a better place without him. Hey, this man was the biggest major violator in Los Angeles. I watched that cocksucker operate with impunity for over 10 years, and now I got it. The shit's chess, it ain't checkers.
Over the course of 6 months, Boagney would call me from jail with information he had tried to give to the LAPD and the FBI. I tried my best to get him to trust me, for him to give me the information and other leads I could pursue.
You said something before that they had to rob the bank to pay Amir Muhammad because Suge backed out on paying Amir?
Yeah.
In the above recording, I reference a conversation I'd had with him prior. The bank robbery being discussed was planned and executed by LAPD officer David Mack and a few cohorts who were never caught. It has been speculated that Rafael Perez was a part of that heist. David Mack would never talk to LAPD investigators, and the money that was stolen, which was close to $800,000, was never found, ever.
I guess Suge was locked up. When Reggie Wright came to everybody and got the information from Dave Kenner and all that stuff about what they needed to be done, the night Biggie was killed, and Perez went that morning and verified his body at the morgue and all that stuff. But they was also supposed to kill Sean Puppy Tone, and they didn't get it done. Gaines was supposed to cut both of them off. The officer Gaines. A lot of people don't know that Gaines was seriously involved in this. He was supposed to cut both vehicles off while another guy come around and shoot him. So Suge backed out of the deal. He was supposed to pay a certain amount of money, and he backed out. So that's why Mack and Perez did the bank job in order to pay Amir, because he was going to go after them. Because Suge didn't hire Amir. Perez and Mack got him to do the job.
And they were scared of Amir Muhammad because Amir was a contract killer.
Absolutely. You know, they were going to pay him. When they came and told him Suge backed out, you know, that's when they had to go do the bank robbery. And Gaines was supposed to be with them on the bank robbery, but he backed out. And he ended up getting killed on the freeway. And then another officer stepped in this place, Sammy Martin. See, a lot of people don't know that Sammy Martin was with Rafael Perez and David Mack in Vegas a couple of days after the bank robbery. And that's why they sent Amir to Payne. You know, but it's a real intriguing story that he told me. It's just so hard to trust people that's going to put the information out there the way I said, because I don't need my words to be twisted. Because I have so many people gunning for me, trying to discredit me and all that, you know, and I can only tell you what this guy told. When he came to the administrative board hearing and he told me all that stuff, you know, I knew intricate details about certain cases that I wasn't supposed to know. How else would I know it unless somebody told me?
Kenneth says the name Reggie Wright Jr. And in this story, he might be the key to everything. Reggie isn't in jail. He even has his own podcast called The Gangster Chronicle. And many people believe that his freedom is based on the fact that he is a government informant. Reggie Wright Jr. was a former Compton Police Department member. Suge Knight hired him as his head of security. It is Reggie Wright Jr. who hired other police officers to become security for Death Row Records. The other names that Kenneth mentioned on the call were LAPD officers Sammy Martin, Kevin Gaines, and the notorious David Kenner, who was Suge Knight's fixer and lawyer. See, what you have to realize, and what is important, is that when Biggie was killed, his death was at the forefront of police corruption inside the city of Los Angeles. The LAPD was rotten at its core. What is crazy is when you look at the timeline of events, 3 major crimes transpired in less than a year, all relating to crooked cops inside the Rampart division and connected to the killing of Biggie.
You know, I was on the maximum security prison yard, you know, and I had a 40 to life sentence. You know, I had no intentions of even saying anything about any of this at all. It just wasn't on my radar until they came and found me. You know, I didn't go out seeking them. They came and found me. They wanted to know what Perez told. You know, and some of the stuff they hid, you know, like Anthony Pellicano, you know, that Perez and Mack use and Suge and them use on a regular basis. They never got reported.
Who was Anthony Pellicano?
You know, Anthony Pellicano was a private investigator, you know, a crooked private investigator, and he had all the tricks of the trade.
He is the private eye accused of illegally wiretapping some of Hollywood's biggest names. Now, Today in LA's Kelly Mack brings us exclusive footage of Anthony Pellicano and an interview with another investigator who says he has helped bring him down.
5 years ago, Private Eye Anthony Pellicano gave NBC's Dateline this exclusive interview at his electronic lair in Los Angeles, where he analyzed audio-taped evidence to be used at trial.
I do tons of work for law enforcement. What my policy is, first come, first serve.
Now he is the focus of a scandal that is the talk of Tinseltown. Indicted recently with 6 associates, he's accused of illegal wiretapping in cases that often put him in touch with Hollywood's top lawyers and their celebrity clients.
He got all this information from them guys, how to find people and stuff like that, and they used them. And I had got a letter, well, I think I still have the letter, where somebody threatened me if I said anything about Anthony Pellicano. So I wrote Perry Sanders and told Perry Sanders, hey, man, You know, the information I gave to LAPD about Pellicano, that shit getting out, man. I'm not trying to get my head chopped off because of all this, you know. I gave them the information. You know, I told them they didn't want to use it. They asked me if I want to testify at trial. I told them no. I wouldn't testify at no trial. I'm not trying to send nobody to prison. You know, I just think Mrs. Wallace had the right to know that the LAPD played a part in killing her son. You know, that was my whole reason for doing it. You know, I have a brother that's Los Angeles County Sheriff. You know, and it all started with me testifying for the Los Angeles Police Department at their administrative board hearings on some of the people Perez was lying on.
I don't want to twist your words. I just want to hear your story and let the general public hear your story and make their assessment.
Okay.
And I guess my last question to you is, you feel Raphael was carrying this weight on his shoulders and was just tired, and that's why he decided to talk to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, he needed somebody that he connected with. I guess me and him had a connection, you know, but we just, we hit it off. Everybody knew Rafael Perez as a police officer. I knew him as a guy, as a criminal. I didn't know him as a police officer. I knew him as a wannabe kind of like gang member to me. He could be real personable. He can be real intelligent when he want to be. When no one's watching him, that's when I knew him, you know. I was there with him. You know, they interviewed him for 70 hours. I was with him and talked to him every day for 8 months.
Wow. And do you think at a certain point in your conversations that he finally was at peace with what he did, or is that going to haunt him for the rest of his life?
Oh, it's definitely going to haunt him for the rest of his life, because he never got to the point to where he was worried that somebody was going to get him for what he done. You know, he knew what he did was wrong. I think he was sorry for what he did. I think he got caught up with Mack and them, because I remember the first time he told me when he took money from Mack. The first time he committed a crime, so to speak, is when he took some money off a drug dealer. Because, you know, he was in narcotics first.
Sure.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Well, I got 30 seconds. So can I call you right now?
The atrocities that were committed by myself and those who stand accused are unforgivable acts. The lines between right and wrong became fuzzy and indistinct. The us against them ethos of the overzealous cop began to consume me. And the end seemed to justify the means. I only vaguely sensed that we were doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. To do our job fairly was not enough. My job became an intoxicant that I lusted after. By then, I began to lust also for things of the flesh. The end result, I cheated on my wife, I cheated on my employer, and I cheated on all of you, the people of Los Angeles.
That audio was a statement made in open court by LAPD officer Rafael Perez when he was being sentenced in the Rampart police scandal. A scandal to this day that is shrouded in lies and another wide-ranging cover-up.
Let me ask you a question. Do you feel when Perez told you the things he told you that he wasn't bragging? This was not someone that was just boasting about something?
Sometimes it would be like he was bragging. Like when they did the bank robbery, they was in Vegas, he was bragging. And when he was putting cases on guys, but when he was talking about, because one incident, when he told me about the Biggie murder, we had been drinking. All right, and I was like, Biggie's song came on the radio, and he was like, oh man, fuck that fat dude. I'm like, man, you don't like this? I mean, this is one of the biggest, best rappers in the world. He's like, man, fuck that guy. Then his whole aura changed. He was like, hey, I was there the night he was killed. And I'm like, what? And then he started telling me everything. But then his whole demeanor changed. But then that next morning, he came in my cell and he put his hand on the middle of my chest and didn't let me up. And that was a different side of Perez that I had never seen.
What did he say to you when he did that?
He put his hand on my chest and he said, hey man, what I told you last night, that don't need to be repeated. And he had his hand on me, and I'm 6'5", He came in my cell and put his hand on my chest while I was laying down and wouldn't let me get up. He said, hey man, what I told you, man, I said, hey man, what you told me, I don't remember none of that stuff, man. And he was like, that's right. And he thought he was a stuff, because he used to be like in there with slang, West Side for Life, Mania, and all that stuff. I've seen him as a different type of person. They had him as a police officer. I seen him different. You know, this is a man that cried in front of me and I done hugged him. This is a man who I met his daughter, his wife.
Kenneth Boagney was known to the lawyers representing Biggie's mom, Voletta Wallace, and they valued his information. Harry Sanders and Dennis Chang were the main lawyers who represented the Wallace estate against the LAPD and the city of Los Angeles in the wrongful death civil suit. See, Perry and Dennis will become major characters in the story of Phil Carson and his investigation into the corruption at the LAPD. These are two more names to keep track of as we uncover the roles they play in this epic story. The story of what happened at the civil trial will be uncovered in future episodes. See, the story of Biggie's death really took place in two parts. The initial murder investigation, and then the second investigation that took place when Perry Sanders sued the LAPD and City of LA.
Yeah, Cadet came and wanted me to do a deposition. I just didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't comfortable with doing a deposition like that just out of the blue. At that time, I didn't know what was going on. All I knew is my name was coming out in the LA Times that implicates two police officers in his murder of Notorious B.I.G. That's the only thing I knew, you know, and I got that from my family. You know, they came and took me out of my cell 5 o'clock in the daytime, and they don't do that unless it's a death in your family or something's wrong. And they told me they were getting ready to put me in a home for protection, you know. So I didn't know what was going on. That was June 29th, and July 5th is when they came up with the video recorders and a court reporter and wanted me to. And I just didn't do it. I didn't feel comfortable doing it.
So was this before the Board of Rights, or this is after?
This was after the board. I did the Board of Rights in 2002, 2003. I did the Board of Rights all the way up to 2004, maybe 2004, 2005, maybe.
At those Board of Rights meetings, when you started to say anything having to do with Biggie Smalls, they told you to shut up.
I'm hoping that this isn't too much information. In these cases, that's what the LAPD is hoping, that people get buried in details and names. I mentioned what is called a Board of Rights hearing. These hearings took place traditionally when an LAPD officer was in trouble or there was going to be discipline given out internally by the department. In the hearings, there were 2 police officers that sat on the board along with a designated civilian. During the Rampart police scandal, there were so many Boards of Rights hearings held inside the LAPD. Kenneth was asked to testify because of his time with Rafael Perez. Many officers involved in the Rampart police scandal had to go before a Board of Rights hearing.
Well, I never said anything about Biggie Smalls. For some reason, they would always bring up death row records. And they would make everybody leave out of the hearing, get out of the hearing, you know, hey, shut down. I mean, stand up. Hey, stop right there, Mr. Boagney. Don't answer that question. Everybody out. Just like that. Seal it right now. Seal the hearings right now. You know, it was a big deal. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when I knew. I said, well, I might have some information that might be valuable.
Because he admitted that he was at the bank robbery, or he knew about it?
He admitted. Let me tell you, this was kind of, he had made a big scene at the police station where he worked at, so everybody could see him. That was his alibi. He was the driver in the bank robbery. It was him, Mack, Gaines, and Perez that was involved in that bank robbery. But it really wasn't a robbery because it was Mack's girlfriend. He had to order the money, and they never got the money, and they're never going to get it.
And did he ever talk about Amir Muhammad or no?
He didn't really talk about him a lot. You know what I'm saying? He didn't. You know, Perez was fearful of them guys. He knew he wasn't supposed to be telling me this. When he was talking about putting cases on other LAPD officers and all that and making good cases bad and all that stuff, you know, it was more jovial. But when he got to talking about this stuff, when he got to dealing with Mack and Gaines and Suge and all them, it was serious. I mean,
because you think he was scared? He was scared of them?
Yeah, it was definitely fear, and it was just like shit. It made me fearful. I definitely got fearful. You know what I'm saying? About
did you hear about Amir Muhammad from anyone else other than Perez?
I didn't even really hear. I don't even know if he said Amir Muhammad. I just think he said one of Mack's friends one of Mack's partners that went way back with him. He never mentioned the guy's name. I have to be honest about that. He never mentioned the guy's name at all. He said a clean-cut guy that Mack and Reggie went to school with or something like that, knew from way back. You know what I'm saying? And there was two guys at first that met with Mack and Perez to do the hit on Biggie. All right, I'm going to get off right now, dog. I got to get off this phone, man. That's what I need about this, man.
Big was in the front, C's was sitting behind Big, and I was like sitting behind the driver.
We just ran over there and like he was just like laid over on the seat, just like looking, like his eyes was like rolling in the back of his head.
So I just told one of the drivers of security to just jump in the car, just take me to the nearest hospital, please.
I saw this individual know that he saw me.
Now, Behind the Music has tracked down a witness who claims he saw Amir Muhammad outside the Peterson Museum the night of the murder.
Yeah, it's the same guy. The same guy that walked up on me. I don't know if he did the shooting, but this is the guy who walked up on me that night.
The witness, who asked us to conceal his identity, was working security that night. He says he is certain he saw Amir Muhammad standing near the museum exit, wearing a blue suit and bow tie, shortly before the shooting occurred.
He just looked me in my eye, and I looked him dead in his eye. And he walked away, going in the direction where the Notorious Big was shot later.
The LAPD has publicly stated that Amir Muhammad is not a suspect.
In my calls with Kenneth, my takeaways were deep. How would the LAPD not look into the allegations that he talked about? How did robbery homicide not even look into the theory that David Mack, Rafael Perez, and possibly Kevin Gaines and Sammy Martin were present when Biggie was killed, or that they orchestrated the murder? Kenneth was another character, another link to what the LAPD didn't want anyone to know or find out. To be honest, they did a good job of deceiving the general public. Finding it now was staggering.
They didn't want to solve the case, is what I thought, because, you know, their people was involved. You had Mack and Perez and Gaines and Sammy Martin neck deep in this stuff, man. I got 12 letters from Perry Sanders in my cell corresponding with him.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And I really considered not saying anything going down Vincent's way. I really considered it, man. You know? I was sitting here with a burglary, and I got 40 to life for it. You know?
Yeah.
So I definitely was considering it. You know what I'm saying? I can't lie to you. I just didn't trust him.
Well, I've heard he's not a very good man. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I didn't trust him. You know, I'm a good judge of character. I just didn't trust Don Vincent. You know, because he came up there, you know, after I didn't do the deposition, he came up there on his own and really tried to persuade me not to testify in a civil trial or do a deposition. He wanted me to go away, man. He made it perfectly clear. He wanted me to disappear. Don Vincent and Bradley Gage was getting ready to fight, man, inside Calipatra visiting room, because they was accusing each other of calling me a jailhouse informant. They was accusing each other, man. I never seen anything like that in my life.
Would you believe two of the most high-powered attorneys in the city of Los Angeles almost came to blows in a prison visiting room? Bradley Gage, representing Miss Wallace, and Don Vincent, representing the city of Los Angeles. These guys were ready to trade blows over the information that Kenneth Boagney had. Don Vincent is a key component of this case, and he appears in many places, not only in the FBI files that I have, but as a recurring character who visited many of the people I talked to. His main mission was he was what is called a city attorney for Los Angeles. When a city or a police department is sued, city attorneys deal with everything. In this case, Don Vincent was doing everything in his power to not have anyone with credible information testifying against the city in the Wallace civil suit. What was at stake was massive, and that was simple. Money, big money. If Biggie's mom and her lawyers won the civil suit against the city, it was estimated that she could walk away with close to $500 million. This was money that could and would bankrupt the city and the LAPD, something unprecedented. So the upper brass of the LAPD and the city attorneys knew that they needed to stymie this case at all costs.
And none of these investigators or none of these guys cared where you knew where the gun was or where the money was?
They did not care. I just couldn't believe it, man. And I remember exactly Perez making a big mistake when he said it, where they went. After all this stuff happened, where did we go? You know what I'm saying? And I knew that's where the money could be. You know what I'm saying? Where the rest of it, because they gave most of it to Amir Muhammad in Las Vegas. You know what I'm saying? They gave some of that bank robbery money because he was going to have their heads because Suge Knight reneged on the deal to pay. I was just trying to give Miss Wallace some closure, man.
I would have to guess that there's been at least 10 documentaries and movies done on the murder of Biggie. Not once is the name of Don Vincent mentioned as a major player. He moved in the shadows as he communicated with the LAPD and members of the city of Los Angeles. I kept harping back on Kenneth's interaction with Don Vincent because according to Kenneth, Don Vincent threatened Kenneth not to talk. He told him not to testify in the civil trial. Why was the city attorney for Los Angeles not accepting information? Why was he trying to bury anyone that would talk? Next time on The Dossier.
That wouldn't be fair to say. When I was out in California, I had a lot of police officers as my bodyguard. And when I went into, they have an unmarked one behind me and all, because there's a lot of terrible things going on in California. I said to him, he introduced him, and I said, I'm Officer so-so and so, and it goes to him. Isn't this a conflict of interest? Here I am, I'm suing you. You know, your old city, and you're protecting me? And he goes, Miss Wallace, not all of us are crooks. No, Miss Wallace. But well, this is going to be in the book. He said to me, I am proud of what you're doing. Because the way we see it is like a little woman fighting against a big giant.